Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits tied to December of 2023. It is time to get over 2023. It is time to end this year. But of course, we have to end this year with some headaches, because that's kind of what we're going to do. For those that have listened to me for a while, you're going to hear me say some things I have already said again, because I have been forewarning of this month for quite some time. Because in different times in my meditation, different things towards events that just happened to be happening in December kept coming through. Now, one major highlight to December that I'm not going to cover very deeply in this episode is the Mercury retrograde, because it's getting its own damn episode. The reason he's getting his own episode is because Mercury has stuff that goes from November, stuff that is all through December, and January, and that's a big timeline that I don't want to just put all into this December month. So I'm acknowledging now we have a Mercury retrograde. I've already been saying this for a while. Mercury has already went into shadow. Mercury went into shadow during the Gemini full moon. But we've had other things going on too that I want to put more emphasis on as we go through and talk about the month of December than just Mercury. So he's so important, he gets his own damn show. Anyways, I was meditating in the last few days as to how I want to talk about this and some of the things that I was anticipating. And I got a lot of things literally yesterday. So I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. Yesterday, Wednesday, was the timeline of Venus's conjunction to the South Node. And I had a very profound energy hit me during that time. Now, if you listen to the week ahead forecast, I said Venus conjunct the South Node for a lot of people can be an internal energy. For other people can be an external energy. If we have people not understanding, not seeing eye to eye, I would not be surprised. You guys have not let me down in that regard. You have been in my DMs and you have let me know, holy crap, you did it. I've talked to you guys through a lot of this. I've coached a lot of people. I took some extra one-on-ones and stuff. Because so many people were having meltdowns this week, that has kind of put me behind on reading. So we still have more readings that need to go out. But I also still wanted to make sure I had this done for, December 1st as well. I'm reminding everybody again, the last 10 days of November and all of December, the whole goddamn month, all of December, all of it. Uncharted territory. Shit we were not expecting. We did not think was going to happen. We couldn't believe or fathom was going to be a possibility. Showed up in the last few days of November. Specifically in that Mercury-Neptune square during a Mercury-ruled full moon in Gemini. A lot of things occurred. For some people, it was an inspiring energy. We recognize the possibilities. We've seen potential, and it is going to lead to something very, very mentally serious unfolding as we get into December. But the serious mental energy will only get to last for so long, and I am very regretful in saying that, because I'm really looking forward to whenever Mercury goes into Capricorn. But I know it's only going to be good for so long. And then we're going to hit some rough water. I was meditating on how I wanted to kind of start this episode. And one of the big things that came through during that Venus South Node conjunction was a memory. And it made me go back to July 22nd. For those that don't remember, July 22nd was the start of the Venus retrograde. It was also when the sun hit its opposition to Pluto in a square with the nodes. And if you listened to me back then, I said it looks like a target. It looks like an activation point. Target acquired. Activation point. And some element of that activation point from July 22nd is going to be an energy that feeds into this next month, but it's really going to be something that we recognize in January. just to be clear. But the part that goes through December is specific to Venus. Now, I'm an intuitive person. I've been very, very clear about this. I lean into my intuition. It is because of my intuition that I started getting into astrology, because I needed something to make sense of all the different freaking energy impacts that I would feel. Nobody else was there to teach me. I had to figure it out. I don't think I did that bad of a job. You guys are listening to me, so I'm a firm believer that once you get a firm understanding of the astrology, you can understand the energies that are impacting you. You can understand when something is affecting you. You can understand your shift in luck, in love, in romance, in happiness, in joy, in anger, in fighting, in frustration, in all levels, once you understand that the transits energetically are impacting us every single damn day. Every day. A birth chart is like code. It is. It's like code. It's a screenshot of where we were and what was going on the day that we were born. It is a screenshot of the energy that encompasses who we are. And the transits are another layer of code that goes right over the top of that. And sometimes it hits a button. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. But there's always a possibility. And you've heard me say in the podcast before, to certain episodes, I've said, like, look, this should be an easy transit. However, if you have natal points in this area, it might not be an easy transit. 9 times out of 10, when somebody tells me they're having a rough day, there's something in their natal chart that has just been activated. Not just the transits. Just to be clear, something is activated. On July 22nd, during that, at that time, at the time that I'm about to describe this, Venus was not retrograde yet. Venus was spinning. But the sun's opposition to Pluto happened in the overnight hours of Friday night going into Saturday. That sun opposition to Pluto at 29 degrees, that activation point. Oh, I felt that. And I'm one of those people that I dream things before they happen. And I had a very violent dream about something that was going to happen to somebody that I cared about at the time. I felt the physical effects of that dream. When I woke up the next morning, I had bruises that had actually manifested onto my physical form. That was fun. Got in the shower, sat in the bottom, just let the hot water beat over me for an hour because I didn't know what was wrong. I sent a video message to one of my friends, and that video message, I clearly state, I don't want to be seen right now. I do this. But all of a sudden, I didn't want to be seen. I think back to some of the things that were unveiled during that whole Venus retrograde, and how people were showing their ass, and the people that led with their ego, like, yeah, let them be seen. I don't want to be seen. Now, the thing that I dreamt about, it did happen. And it happened during that Venus retrograde. I didn't want to be right. I'm one of those people, I would rather be wrong. If I give you warning of something, it's because I want to be wrong. I want you to get it fixed. It didn't get fixed. It happened. It did happen. And I thought after that event had happened that I was good, that I would be over everything, but I really wasn't. I didn't realize that at first. I actually didn't realize that until way, way later because of how things went through my meditation yesterday. And I specifically remembered that phrase coming out of my mouth. I heard that again. But I also heard a song telling me it's time to wake up. I heard my own words coming out of my mouth of saying, I don't want to be seen. But I was hearing a song about no longer being asleep. That I've been asleep. And it is time to wake up from something. I said the Venus South Node conjunction for a lot of people is going to be an internal activation. Something in the body. A heart wound. A physical effect towards the body, like something going on in the actual body. Something that can be triggered in your health. Some people actually went in for something like to be looked at on their body. Like sometimes it was cosmetic, other times it had to do with things, dirt tied to certain areas. I had a lot of people come to me this week talking to me about heartbreak, of wanting to leave somebody behind. They're wanting to end a friendship. They're wanting to get away from a business partner. They're wanting to finally break free of somebody, break free of something. For some people, there was a profound relief with Venus on the South Node. And I want to be clear about how I describe parts of this next energy. I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm telling you what that feeling means. And there's a big difference here. You know how you feel. Some people, as we get into the 1st of December, have just had something internally activate in them, and they realize they're done. They're done. They're done with dealing with somebody. Some people are feeling this overwhelming energy that they have to overcome something. Overcome a fear, overcome the past, overcome trauma, that they have to face something. Some people are feeling like they need to take a certain action. That energy is meant to play out in the very first part of December. If you are going into the first part of December and you are ready to have very serious conversations, you can use this energy strategically in the beginning. And I firmly agree to do that. If you have the capability, you should do that. But please understand, whatever we talk about with somebody in the very first few days of December is very likely going to be something that we come back to at the end of the month. It will be. Anything that happened in the last week of November, going into the first few days of December, we will come back to these conversations. We will have them again, we will have the next layer, or we will have something else come through. But for many people, the Venus South Node energy is going to lead to something that's going to happen in the first few days. And by the first few days, I specifically mean right around December 3rd and December 4th. Because that's when Venus is going to hit her square to Pluto. Now, I've thought about this Venus-Pluto square, and I'm kind of excited for it, I'll be honest. But I also thought about earlier this year, specifically March of this year. The last time Venus squared Pluto, Venus was in Aries. It was before the retrograde. And it happened in March. Pluto was at 29 degrees. Venus is at 29 degrees. They go into a square. And many of us had something in March. Sorry, guys. I'm trying with the allergy meds. It doesn't matter what I do, no matter what I take, I'm still draining. Many of us had something in March that tried to come through, but it couldn't. When the Venus-Pluto square hit, it was also the same week of the Sun, Mercury, Neptune shit show square into Mars. That happened in March too. Mars was ending its tour through Gemini, 8 months in Gemini, and we had a Mercury Cazimi conjunct Neptune. And Neptune, the Sun, and Mercury all had squares to Mars, and this happened the very same week as the Venus-Pluto square. For many people, the Venus-Pluto square was a blip on our radar that we couldn't even focus on, that we couldn't do anything about. Venus sent a message, called Pluto, sent a letter, did something, but there was something else that was so distracting in the moment. Saturn had just went into Pisces, all of Mercury, the Sun, and Neptune, that square from Pisces to Gemini, like our focus was elsewhere. We couldn't focus. We couldn't even see it. And what did Venus do? Blump, blump, go into Taurus, goes into her own damn sign, goes to do her own damn thing. She is on her own. Piss on Pluto. You don't want to listen, you don't want to listen. There was something that we tried to deal with back then that we couldn't deal with. We weren't prepared. Our energy and our attention was elsewhere at the time. Now it's different. Venus has had an entire retrograde. She has shown her ass all throughout the summer. We've had all sorts of things going on. And little by little, we've been rounding back to certain energies that go back to March. Little by little. It's been taking us back to a prior energy. And there will be elements, again, of certain timelines from earlier this year that are going to be a part of the energy that we deal with later this month. In the very first few days of December, Venus is going to square Pluto. What's going to be interesting, though, is the last Venus-Pluto square, Venus changed signs, Pluto changed signs. There were squares to Pluto from Taurus to Aquarius, but not Aries to Capricorn. So Pluto was at 0 degrees. And there was a square from Jupiter, there was a square from Mercury, there was a square from the Sun. But then Pluto went retrograde, and Pluto went back into Capricorn. Pluto squared the nodes for a good month through July and August, putting pressure to do something and to deal with something and to go back towards something. There was a mental pressure on a lot of people to turn something around, but not all of it has been turned around yet. Keyword is yet. Now, over the last month and a half, we've had some squares to Pluto. The first one was Mars. And each of the squares to Pluto has triggered something before said planet has entered Scorpio. Mars squared Pluto right before Pluto turned direct and entered Scorpio. Mercury and the Sun squared Pluto and entered Scorpio. The last planetary square to Pluto before Pluto changes signs is Venus, and it happens in the beginning of December. This time is going to be different than last time. Last time, Venus was in Mars's sign, and then she moved into her own. This time she's in her own sign, and this time she is the one in the higher authority. And Venus has some level of energy of wanting to get something understood, of wanting to get something healed, of wanting to put something correct, of wanting to transform a situation, of wanting to regain her damn power. Now, the thing about Venus in Libra, which that's where Venus has been throughout most of November, is Venus in Libra has been getting a bit of a reset. But we have not been able to see that because there hasn't been any planetary aspects to Venus until she gets to the end. Until she hits that square to Pluto. Now, unlike last time, as soon as she finished her square, she went into her own sign. And she did her own thing, which was fine. But this time, Venus wants to get to the bottom of something. And Venus in her square to Pluto will immediately then change signs and go into Pluto's sign. And for a big portion of the month, there will be deep-seated Venusian wounds that need to be healed. Deep-seated traumas that are going to be brought to the surface. Our fears are going to be brought to the surface. There's going to be areas where people need to transform something. If during the Venus South Node conjunction you were at peace, that means you were in alignment with where we go next. And Venus in Scorpio can be a very pivotal energy for you. If you got triggered by something, you felt loss, you felt the quake, you felt the shivering, you felt the shaking. If you felt this, understand that that is going to be a big element to whatever happens in the Venus-Pluto square, because that internal energy is going to trigger into something, into an external manifestation. And that will then lead to whatever you need to deal with once Venus goes into Scorpio. If you feel like you can put something straight, meet some level of recognition, you're in alignment. If you feel like you need to deal with the wounds and deal with the trauma and deal with certain things, understand these wounds are going to go very, very deep, because the thing about Venus and Scorpio is Venus is in her detriment in Scorpio. We have deep wounds that need to be looked at. For some people, Venus and Scorpio will result in heartbreak. And that Venus-Pluto square will initiate it. But there is some saving grace for Venus. And that saving grace comes in a very layered energy that's going to take place once Venus goes into Scorpio. She's going to be getting hosted by Pluto. Yes. But she's also going to be hosted by Mars. And for the next part of what I want to talk about, I'm not worried about Pluto. I want to talk about Mars. When one planet is in the sign of another planet, if they happen to be in each other's sign, we go into an energy what is known as mutual reception. We are going to have a layered version of mutual reception that will lead to very indirect aspects, indirect growth, indirect change, unexpected results, unexpected consequences. Some people are in a good place, some people are in a bad place. Unexpected actions throughout the month of December. And the reason I say that is because of what happens once Venus goes into Scorpio. And that is, Venus is going to be in Mars' sign. Mars is in Jupiter's sign, but Jupiter is being hosted by Venus. So again, Venus is in Mars' sign, Mars is in Jupiter's sign, but Jupiter's in Venus' sign. So we have this layered effect. Once Venus goes into Scorpio, anything that impacts her, any transit that impacts her, anything that's going on, it will indirectly impact Mars. And that's got layers to it. Anything that happens to Venus will both indirectly and directly lead to parts of Jupiter's turnaround. Please note how I stated that. Parts of Jupiter's turnaround. Because we only get the very last little bit of that turnaround by the end of December. The first part of it, basically all of it, all of December, there will be questioning. There will be unsure things. And we are not going to understand full solid footing until we get into January. Just to be clear, this entire month is a month of transitions. That means we will have both good and bad. We will have both beginnings and endings. We will see waves of all of it, all throughout the month of December. Once Venus goes into Scorpio, anything that goes on with her impacts Jupiter's turnaround, impacts the way Jupiter's retrograde ends. The deeper we go into our healing, the deeper we recognize certain things within ourselves, the more hope can be restored, the more hopeful actions can be made. The more we commit to certain things, the more we can take things in a new direction, because we are still in uncharted territory. We're going in a new path. We're going in a new direction. Venus had a retrograde. Venus had a very pleasant, balancing reset while going through Libra. We just haven't been able to understand it. We don't understand the full effects of Venus and Libra, and we don't get the full understanding of it until Venus hits that square to Pluto. And with her being in the eye of authority, she's going to be able to push Pluto. I need you to talk to me. We need to work through this. We need to overcome. We need to figure this shit out. We got kids. We have an entire company. We've had 20 years together. We need to figure it out. And there will be attempts to figure some shit out. And by the end of the month, some people are going to be very, very aware what action they're going to take one way or another. Some people are not going to like the result at the end of the month. There's a lot of combative energy by the end of the month. There's a lot of action that hits at the end of the month. If you are trying to travel around Christmas, I don't like it. Specifically, December 26th and 27th, I don't like it. I don't. Now, the thing about Mars is newly reborn. We just had a Mars rebirth, and we are now at the very beginning stages of an entire new 2-year cycle. And we are not going to understand the full aspects of this cycle and what's beginning until we get into January. But every day this month, we are understanding something. We are seeing something. Just understand that throughout this month, the reason it's uncharted territory is because, for lack of a better way to say it, Mars is a little snowblind. Sometimes you've been on the water and you're just at the right angle, all the reflection of the light and everything, the way it's hitting your face, you're like, I can't see. If you're going into snowy driving, all of that bright white hitting you, you can't see. You can see a little bit, but you can't see everything because everything's covered in white. Some people, you've been in sand. Your thing is sand, and you can just see the waves of the heat lines, but nothing's clear because everything's just reflecting back. There's some element that is blind. Again, we are in uncharted territory. Certain decisions, the human effect, certain decisions need to happen in December for us to understand what's going to start next, where we go next. We need certain things to happen that are not necessarily going to happen as soon as we want them to. Energetically, something is not ready to happen. Every day this month, though, Mars gets stronger. While Mars is within 15 degrees of the sun, it is considered to be combust. It is snowblind. Bright light, white light, can't fully see. But the further that light gets away, the more Mars starts to get its vision. The more Mars is starting to get its direction. The more Mars is starting to get its purpose. He's going to be able to start to see something soon. And little bits of this month will reveal that direction, reveal this thing that we are going into. The main highlights, the main places to look at in your natal chart, because not everybody's gotten readings from me. That's fine. I don't really care about that, but I'm just saying, if you were the self-study person, because I was the self-study person, so I'm not projecting, I'm really telling you guys the truth on this one. Is I was completely a self-study person. So if you are going to continue through this month and you want to get a good idea of where your focus is going to be, where the majority of the issues are going to be, where the majority of the transitions are going to be, where the majority of things that are going to need to be worked through, where the impacts are going to be, you need to know what Taurus rules in your chart, what Scorpio rules in your chart, and what Sagittarius rules in your chart. 2 of these are fixed signs, Scorpio and Taurus. One of them is a mutable sign. Only one of them. So whatever we are transitioning, mutable sign, has a long-term effect, fixed signs. Now the thing about Sagittarius is it's not just Mars. The thing about Jupiter signs right now is it's not just Mars. We have Mars, the sun, currently. Mercury will be in and out. Neptune's been in Pisces for a decade, and Saturn has been in Pisces since March. This is all Jupiter signs. There's a lot of energy towards transition that has been very resistant. Some people have had certain transitions, and it's been in waves. This is the new wave. This has nothing to do with the old stuff. This is the new wave. This is the next wave. This is the next long-term energy. For some people, it's going to be a minimum of 2 years. For some people, it's going to be more like 7 to 8. For other people, it's going to be 17. For other people, it's going to be 30. We are transitioning into something that's going to last for quite some time. Understand where we're transitioning. Understand that we're going into something big. A new long-term fixed energy. Okay. I had somebody in the comments mention that I did a really long intros. This is always going to be a long intro because the month ahead, I put a lot more focus into the things that have come through my meditation. So anyways, December 1st, here we are, December 1st. And the thing about December 1st that we're looking at is the fact that Mercury goes into Capricorn. Mercury at 0 degrees of Capricorn. Please understand that whatever conversations are getting had, again, those last few days of November, we're going to come back to based off the Mercury retrograde. These first few days of December, we're going to come back to, 1, based off the Mercury retrograde, but 2, this 0 degree mark this is going to be important. Because the Mercury Cazimi is going to happen at this 0 degree mark. For many people, Mercury going into Capricorn, it is an arrival. It is a decision. It is an announcement. It is certain types of news, weighted news, tangible news. An announcement, a decision of something serious. Taking responsibility. Those last few days of Mercury and Sag, when Mercury was in that square to Neptune, it was hard to focus. It was hard to get things done. Our minds were very, very busy. Once Mercury goes into Capricorn, like this first little bit of Mercury in Capricorn, I'm all about it. Because you can really get some things put together. And if you know that you're going to have some weird shit that's going to happen later this month, put your stuff in order. And just know that some of the order and some of the things that you're going over, that there's going to be a layered effect that you're going to be coming back over them by the end of the month. By the end of the month. But we can have a very serious notion, a very serious conversation, something very, very serious that can come through anywhere between the 1st, based off of Mercury going into Capricorn, and the 3rd, because that's when Venus will go through her square to Pluto. So I have this real late in the evening. I have this at 10:15. There's a method to my madness. A lot of some of the transits, as we get through them in the month, they're going to be at that late hour. So I have this right now at the later hour. Again, whatever happens with Venus pushing her square to Pluto, because she is the one applying. She is in her domicile. She's in her right. She knows what she knows. She's good at what she's doing. She is balanced. She has released something recently with that South Node conjunction. And the one and only true planetary aspect that Venus will make, because I'm not including the moon for this part of the conversation, that Venus is going to make is going to be this Venus-Pluto square. This entire time of her going through Libra, nothing. No major planets, just the moon and the South Node. Until here. And Venus hits that square. And she's pushing for something. The feminine is pushing for power, pushing to control, pushing to heal something, pushing to overcome. Venusian energy wants to have their personal power back. Now, for some people, this is going to be triggering. This is going to be a hard event. But whatever happens in the Venus-Pluto square, which is the most exact on the 3rd, leads to the energies that start to unfold the next day on December 4th when Venus goes into Scorpio. Now, this is going to happen midday. So this is going to happen between 12 and 1 o'clock. And if you watch the weekly episodes, you're going to see exactly when it goes through because I'm going to tell everybody. Once Venus goes into Scorpio, again, this layered mutual reception. Venus is in Mars' sign. Mars is in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter is in Venus' sign. We have this layered mutual reception. Now, Venus will make a direct aspect to this Jupiter, and that's going to happen on the 9th. We're building up to that throughout the week. And there will be some very timely conversations that come to the surface because some level of an energetic veil is going to fall away. I know that sounds specific. Why would I say that? Well, because December 6th, Neptune turns direct. Neptune is in Jupiter's sign. Neptune is in its own sign, but for the sake of this part of the conversation, Neptune is in Jupiter's sign. In the next few days after Neptune turns direct, Mercury will make a trine to Jupiter. Venus will sextile this Mercury and hit this opposition to Jupiter. So there's actually three things. There is a very interesting energy here, and at the same time, Mercury is slowing down after this trine with Jupiter. Mercury slows down. Mercury slows down because Mercury is about to turn retrograde. So there can be some very timely, serious, deep conversations, strategic conversations, weighted, who was responsible for what, who should have been doing what, type conversations that are going to get had around these days. And Neptune turning direct allows for some energetic barrier to be removed. For some people, we've been on the verge. We know we want to talk to somebody. We know we want to have this conversation. We know we're getting close. We know that somebody's about to come back around. We've been seeing it in our meditation. We've been seeing it in our dreams. We can feel this person been thinking about us. We can feel it. And then something about Neptune's energy falling away, turning direct, but there's no other transit immediately in the energy. It's the days after. It makes me think the Mercury trine to Jupiter and the Venus opposition to Jupiter, that it makes me think what happens after Neptune turns direct actually plays in Jupiter, not Neptune. There's a very profound energy here. Mercury is in its first trine to Jupiter. There will be three, and this is the one that's direct. And we have a purposeful conversation of how we want to take something forward, of how we want to do something now, of where we want to make a change, what that change is going to take. Some people, if you've been distant from somebody for a very long time, we know that it's going to be a layered conversation. There'll be a lot of things going on in this conversation. We know that it's going to take some time to understand everything. Venus is plunging into the depths of her soul, wanting to heal wounds, wanting to heal trauma, and wanting to come out the other side with a new lease on life. But it's going to take quite a few weeks for all that to make sense. Mercury's trine to Jupiter goes the most exact December 7th. So you can see it's almost exact here on the 6th. We get to the 7th. Here's the most exact. Actually, it's almost exact. Mercury, 6 degrees, 29 minutes. Jupiter, 6 degrees, 28 minutes. You can see this right here. It's December 7th at 10:15. On December 9th, Venus is going to hit her opposition to Jupiter. And that's actually going to include a conjunction with the moon that happens earlier in the day. The moon will make a conjunction to Venus, and they will both oppose Jupiter in Taurus. This includes Venus in the sextile to Mercury. This is not exact yet. It goes exact a few days from now. And I think the exact is going to be really important because I said this in the November episode. There was an exact Mercury-Venus sextile that happened, and it both happened at 8 degrees. So Venus was at 8 degrees of Libra. Mercury was at 8 degrees of Sagittarius, but they were in a quincunx to Jupiter at 8 degrees of Taurus. So we had a conversation. We had a message. We said something, but some other party wasn't ready to do something. They weren't ready to pull the trigger. They weren't ready to have the conversation. They weren't ready to buy. They weren't ready to do something. But this energy feels like we're more ready for something that we weren't ready for before. Something has unveiled itself. Something has unshrouded. Something has been released. A clarity has set in by Neptune turning direct. Very specific conversations. Now, the Venus-Mercury sextile, that is actually going to be on the 11th. That's when that goes the most exact. So you can see this right here. And ironically, it still is at 8 degrees. Mercury is at 8. Venus is at 8. Mercury is also slowing down because Mercury will turn retrograde at 8 degrees. So there is something in this conversation of Venus and Mercury, this timely healing, overcoming the wounds, can be like a reality check, but not a harsh reality check. It's like, are you ready? Should we make different plans? Are we traveling together? Are we going to do this? Will you meet here? Can we do this? Like, there's a far more strategic, prepared conversation starting. And it can be a big portion of what's going to play out during the Mercury retrograde. Because Mercury is going to pause right here after the sextile. It's almost like whatever Venus says really makes Mercury think and figure out, I didn't do this right. I'm not ready. I need more time. Or it's going to make Mercury take the time. Yes, I am ready. Yes, I want to try again. Yes, I want to work through this. And we use that entire Mercury retrograde in a more strategic point. There's a possibility of both. If you understand this energy and you want to work with this energy, use it to your advantage. If you don't understand this energy and you feel like you're going to see the other side, which I'll talk about here in a minute, come through, be prepared to see both in the world around you. Because you'll see both. Speaking of the both, the next day, December 12th, new moon in Sagittarius. This new moon in Sagittarius also instigate another very interesting energy to me. Very, very interesting energy. And that is a secret transit. Now, I will put more emphasis on this whenever I talk about the Mercury retrograde video. Again, Mercury has got so much going on. He gets his own video. We have certain transits known as an Antiscia and a Contra-Antiscia. Anticias are secret oppositions. We know we're working against time. We know we're working against an element. We know we're going back over something, and we're getting met with some level of opposition from somebody we would normally not have opposition with. Ego versus logic. Strategy versus overconfidence. That can also set in between the new moon, which happens on the 12th, and the next day, when Mercury turns retrograde and starts moving backwards towards the sun. Now, this is actually the day that this goes the most exact. And we start to this secret opposition type energy. So some of us are going to strategically know we're going back over something we've already done before. Now, I've been in home building for years. I'm going to use my home building experience as this example. In one way, it is normal to go back over the exact same area over and over again when you're building a house. You need the studs to go up. You need to run electrical through the studs. You need to run HVAC. You need to run the plumbing. You have to run something through the studs. That means we're going back over the exact same areas of the house constantly. Then once it's ready and the inspections are there, we do insulation. That's still going back over areas of the walls that we've already been playing with. We have to put up sheetrock. We're going back over the walls, the areas that we've already been playing with. Working through. Building the house in the layered aspect of that, doing the different phases over the exact same areas over and over again, make sense. Some people will be at a strategy moment right here where they know they're going back over something that they've already done, putting it in a more mundane way that we're doing stuff. You have spent weeks buying everybody's Christmas gifts. This is around a really good few days to sit down and wrap everybody's gifts. Are you buying new ones? No. But we are doing something in the next layer, in the next round, knowing that they're going to get opened later. The next part, strategy. But in other parts, not every one of us are wrapping gifts. Some of us are going to get to a point that we're going to realize we have to go back over something that we've already done. And this is where I'm going to tie back the home building in. I hate redoing work that I've already done. I hate whenever I've hung up a piece of sheetrock, come to find out something wasn't done right behind the wall and I got to reopen the wall. That is infuriating to me because I wanted to have it done right the first time. I take my sweet time before I put stuff up just because I don't want to have to tear it down and potentially lose that cost of material because I do a lot of my stuff on my own because I'm a weirdo. This can be very irritable if you're not anticipating having to go back over something. If you're not anticipating this in the strategy type way, if this is something that just feels like it's a boom, no, you have to go back over. No, you have to do this again. No, you have to do something different. This can be highly irritating when Mercury turns retrograde. And considering in these same few days, the sun starts entering its square to Neptune, as you can see right here, that adds to the elements of confusion. If you're not using the sun, Neptune in a creative sense and a spiritual sense, in some level of overcoming, this is going to be hard if you're trying to do something strategic, if you're trying to do something very, very focused, if you're trying to do something that's meant to be repetitive and over again, and we have to get something accomplished. The sun and Neptune. Oh, look, squirrel. Oh, look, I love this song. Oh, look, there's something going on over there. You have this report. You have this contract. You have this paperwork. You need to get this done. Woo! It'll be hard to focus. You're going to go into places and people are not going to be focused. And if you're trying to get something done and they're not focused, again, irritability. There is a harsh level of irritability that I am anticipating at certain parts of this energy. And this is where a lot of it can pick up. Because some people are going to be having to go back over things. They're trying to get something accomplished. And they're going to be feeling like they're talking to brick walls. They're going to be feeling like they're talking in a different language. It starts right here. If you hit an irritability moment in the mid part of December, Mercury retrograde. And I'm still going to get DMs. What is going on? Mercury retrograde. Anyways. Now, the exact Sun-Neptune square is going to happen on December 16th. You can see that right here. But the other thing that's going to happen in this time span, and this actually happens on the 15th, while we're entering the Sun-Neptune square, is Jupiter is going to reach the 5-degree mark. Now, this is important because this is where Mercury's point of shadow was back in the last Mercury retrograde that happened in Taurus in April to May of this year. It was between 5 and 15 degrees. The lunar out of sign Taurus eclipse that we had October 28th, right here, 5 degrees. This is where it happened. Jupiter will be at 5 degrees for an entire month. And this is going to start right as the sun in Jupiter's sign is hitting a square to Neptune. In Jupiter's sign, we're going to feel stuck. We're going to feel stuck going, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Oh, I don't know how this is going to happen. Oh, I don't know. And Mercury going backwards is like, I already did this once before. What do you mean I did it wrong the first time? What do you mean we got to put another coat of paint on? What do you mean it was the wrong color? What do you mean it's not the right tile? I swear I ordered this the correct way. I know I did. I know I did. I know I had this contract signed. I know this contractor was supposed to be here. I know we were supposed to do this at this time. What are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. There will be parts of these days that are not going to make sense. And if you are trying to get something accomplished, not going to make sense. And that's going to lead to irritability. That's going to lead to frustration, and that can potentially lead to a series of arguments. Be aware of that. Again, Sun-Neptune square is the most exact on December 16th. 2 days later, on December 18th, Mercury will enter its second of 3 trines to Jupiter. Now, this one's going to be different because the last time Mercury was direct. This time, both Mercury and Jupiter are retrograde. Jupiter was retrograde before, but now these two are both. And remember, Mercury is moving back towards Jupiter's sign. This is a direct hit of Mercury hitting Jupiter at that 5-degree point of shadow that I've already talked about. There's something very profound in what we're going back on. Some people will be going back on something. They will get blindsided with something with that Sun-Neptune square that we don't know when it's going to get fixed. We don't know when everything's going to get corrected. We don't know what we don't know. I'm waiting for more news. I'm waiting to get more information. Something happened. It's causing a distraction, considering when Mercury goes back through its trine with Jupiter, this is also going to be the same time when the moon is in Jupiter's sign. The moon will actually make a conjunction to Neptune in the same time span, so literally within the same 24 hours. There's a big portion of this energy that can be trying to find an effect, find what went wrong, find an issue. And Mercury's trying to Jupiter saying, I don't know when I'm going to find it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's wrong. But as soon as I know more, you're going to know more. But many of us are going to have to go back on something that we've already said we would accomplish, that we already thought was going to be okay, that we already had a certain dynamic for, a certain agenda for. We're going to end up going back on something, withdrawing in some way. Some of us at the beginning of the month were like, yeah, we'll totally be there for the holidays. And then something's going to pop up and be like, I can't travel now. I has a cold. I'm going to say it that way. It could be something else. It could be the flu. It could be COVID. It could be something else. Be like, many of us are going to be in the situation that somebody is withdrawing from a prior commitment, or more confusion, more frustration, or being told, never mind, don't worry about it. Never mind, don't come. What do you mean don't come? I thought I would. What do you mean? Yeah, I don't want you here after all. I don't need you here after all. That sounded really shitty at first. We're not going to go that route. We're going to go a different way. There's going to be something here that changes the mindset, that changes the decision, that changes the story. Some kind of effect of the last few days has set in and has created a dilemma right here. Okay. Now, right after that energy, we get to December 20th, and we have Venus hitting her opposition to Uranus, while the moon in Aries is in a trine with Mars. This is exciting. There's some kind of excitement on this day. There could be some unexpected turmoil, being the fact that between the 20th and the 21st, the sun is now at 29 degrees. Pluto is now at 29 degrees. So we have some type of unexpected turmoil, some type of unexpected energy, some type of unexpected ending that can come through. Some of this can have to do with work. We can have an unexpected turnaround, an unexpected blessing. But there's something very unexpected and exciting about this energy that leads to clarity. It leads to a very specific kind of clarity. Clarity that's meant to come through on the 22nd. Now, this is 10:15. This is right before the Venus-Uranus opposition. For me, this happens at midnight. That means for a lot of other people, it's happening on the 21st, the Venus-Uranus opposition. This is right around midnight that it's happening for me. And remember, Venus and Uranus, there's this opposition, but anything that's impacting Venus is indirectly impacting Mars. Mars is in a quincunx to Uranus, while Venus is in this opposition. So Venus has some exciting thing that she wants to do, she's got an idea in mind, but somebody else might not be in agreement with it. Somebody else might not be okay with it. Somebody else might have some additional opinions through Mars. Vice versa, Venus could be getting some type of unexpected energy, an unexpected aid, some unexpected action that benefits Mars. It can go both ways. There can be an unexpected, unintended, indirect benefit to Mars based off of the rest of the energy. This I like. One of the rare transits I like in the Mercury retrograde is this one right here. Okay. Sorry. There it is. I'm going to back this up so I can see it and show you at the right time. There we go. So, December 22nd, 5:15 p.m. Central Standard Time is what I got it up right now. Mercury and the Sun have their Mercury cazimi. This is also happening during the winter solstice. This is the start of Capricorn season. This is a whole new set of light. This is a whole new ball game. We have the ability to start something new, but we also have the ability to bring something new based off of something old. I like that this actually goes the most exact while the moon is in a conjunction to Jupiter, because that tells me that there's something very stabilizing that happens in the Mercury cazimi. Whatever comes to light, whatever is revealed, whatever arrives, because there can be an arrival, has a long-term energy to it, can play into part of Jupiter's turnaround, because when this all happens, when this all goes down, this will be within a week of Jupiter's direct date. So again, something very, very clear and very, very hopeful can happen right here. An arrival, something unexpected, somebody unexpected, but it's going to be likely somebody from the past. Somebody that's very, very hopeful, somebody that can be very, very stabilizing. There is a profound energy towards clarity and stabilizing and hopefulness right here. Immediately after that, going into the 23rd, Mercury is going to go back into Sagittarius. Now, here's the thing. I said in November, Mercury in Sagittarius is messy season. And that showed the most the last week of Mercury in Sag during those squares to Neptune. This is messy season 2.0 because Mercury is back in its detriment and it's retrograde and it's going to have another square to Neptune and it's going to have a conjunction to Mars, and this is going to happen during the full moon in Cancer. Holy crap. Mercury's in its detriment. Mercury is retrograde, and it will square Neptune, and it will conjoin Mars, and we will have the energy of a full moon involved. This is going to be a very interesting ending to the frickin' year. Mercury went back into Sagittarius. Congratulations, everybody. It's messy. 2.0. I meant what I said. In the late part of the 24th, going into the 25th, Venus will enter a trine with Neptune. And this is interesting to me because this is also right as Mercury and Mars start to enter its square. Both of them are in very equal parts in this square. And it's like something starts to come together. Something could be fated, but something could be spiritual. It can also be an effect that's starting to set in. There can be things that go back to that timeline from March, because I'm going to remind everybody, again, when that Venus at 29 squared Pluto at 29, this happened in March. Neptune had the Sun and Mercury in a conjunction squaring Mars and Gemini right here. This is a much more progressed Mars, where 180 degrees from when all that happened. Ironically enough, though, it did happen at the 24 and 25 degree mark. So there is a progression of energy, and there's an impulse and an action. There can be some motivations that can start to set through, but there can also be that lie, deception, that fraud. There can also be certain things in the body that start to go awry, and we have some other type of effect that sets in. And it really comes down to whether Pisces or Sagittarius, or if your sixth, I'm going to say it this way, if your sixth house is a mutable sign, if Mercury rules your sixth house of health, therefore Gemini would rule your sixth house, or Virgo, so that would be Aries rising, Capricorn rising. Or if Jupiter or Neptune, Jupiter or Neptune, Sagittarius or Pisces, it's the same planets. If these two rule your sixth house of health, that's Cancer risings, that's Libra risings. So my cardinal signs, this can have a health impact. Most likely the cardinal signs, this can have a huge health impact. Whether it's your health or somebody else's health, understand that. But this right here, this can have a health impact too, but it's most likely for them, it's going to be the cardinal signs. Okay. Venus enters its trine with Neptune, so there's something romantic, something helpful, there's something supportive, there's something coming through. Remember, Venus is getting to the edge of Scorpio, so Venus is about to come out of this energy. She's starting to feel better, so there can be a very big healing element here. We can also get confirmation of a future act or a future action, a future intention. Again, this can be supportive. It's not terrible. It doesn't have to be terrible. We get to December 26th. Here's December 26th. We got two things going on right here. One, Mercury goes through its second square with Neptune right here. This is one that's the most exact. This is happening during the full moon in Cancer. Here's the full moon. I said we had a full moon's energy that's going to combine with all of this. So again, Mercury, Neptune exact during the full moon in Cancer. That's an emotional full moon. That can be things being brought to the surface. That can be things that are disruptive. This full moon is the moon in a in a sextile to Jupiter. The sun is entering its trine to Jupiter. The sun's trine to Jupiter actually goes the most exact the next day on the 27th. And it is in this energy that we also instigate the final days of Jupiter being retrograde. Jupiter is about to turn around. There's something that gets completed that leads to a turnaround. There's a disruption in the energy that leads to things turning around in more than one way. And that turnaround will happen between December 30th and January 1st. There's an activity here. For some people, it can be a level up, a romanticized level up, because we have this Venus-Neptune energy. There can be something solid with the sun, Jupiter, but there can be something very disruptive, accidental with this upcoming part whenever it comes to Mars and Mercury coming into a conjunction and Mercury in the square to Neptune. The last few days of the month have such a weight to them. Here's December 27th. Here's whenever Mars and Mercury hit their exact conjunction. The moon will still be in Cancer, therefore we are still in this emotional energy with the moon. We are still trying to overcome. We're still riding the wave of the full moon's energy. Now, the one thing I want to bring up about the Mercury-Neptune square with that full moon in Cancer, I just thought I'm backing up to recap one thing. At the end of November, earlier this week, the week that I'm recording, so Monday, we had the full moon in Gemini and a Mercury-Neptune square. A month later, December 26th, we have a Mercury-Neptune square and a full moon in Cancer. I called the full moon in Gemini an illogical full moon, that people wanted to make changes and people wanted to do certain things that didn't make sense to everybody else. People were not understanding, not seeing eye to eye. Oh, we have a much better understanding by the end of December. We don't have as much indirect action anymore. In fact, we're far more aware of the actions needing to be taken. And there can be situations that go back from that full moon in Gemini to this point, where if you were lying to somebody during the full moon in Gemini, oh, you're going to get caught right here. This is caught. This is the next layer of the situation. This is the next round of action. Now, some people just did all of their shopping during Black Friday. Just humor me on this one. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And actually, it was more the cyber stuff. I actually watched Bloomberg. This is going to be a quick tangent. During that whole timeline, I saw on TikTok like all these different things. Like, nobody's doing Black Friday. Nobody's out shopping. Nobody. That's because there was a record $9 billion in sales for online shopping on Black Friday. There was also a 72% increase in people using the buy now, pay later apps. This can also be the day of your first payment, and you didn't realize how much money you spent. And it leads to disruption. It leads to action. Some people, especially if you're in a relationship, only one person does the Christmas shopping. Only mom does the Christmas shopping, or only dad. Only one person was doing it. And then another person is going to find out how much got spent, and they're going to lose their shit right here. Somewhere between the 26th and the 27th. Like, you didn't tell me all that. You didn't tell me you spent all of that. This can be combative. This can be argumentative. Vice versa. There can be other things tied to online sales and online shopping that leads to compromises right here. Data breach type things. That might not be something that you can control. You can also realize you've spent so much money, you go to the grocery store all of a sudden and you run your card and it doesn't want to go through. We can't pay for these groceries. I'm not wishing bad on anybody. I'm being realistic about the energies at play right here. Mars and Mercury are hitting their conjunction, and they're still in the square to Neptune. We can have one element of that lead to the tension and the frustration the next day. What do you mean we can't pay all the bills? What do you mean my check is already gone? What do you mean something didn't go through correctly? What do you mean? And with the sun hitting this trine to Jupiter, there's something solid and tangible being recognized. Because the sun is in an earth sign and Jupiter is in an earth sign. There's a solid, tangible thing that is going to come to light, that is going to come to surface, and it is going to result in a turnaround, literally in the next few days. That's because Jupiter is about to turn direct. Now, the Mars-Neptune square goes the most exact real late December 28th going into the 29th. You can kind of see that going on right here. Mars, 25 degrees, 3 minutes. Here is Neptune, 25 degrees and 2 minutes. The other thing that's going to happen, this is actually the more on the real late thing, is this is also when Venus is going to hit its sextile to Pluto. I like this Venus sextile to Pluto during the Mars-Neptune square because this tells me that there's going to be some deeper understandings. And this also screams to a motivation of change, an awareness that's setting in, somebody understanding that something is going to be different, and a corrective action that will immediately follow, because right after the Venus-Pluto sextile, Venus goes into Sagittarius. Venus goes into Jupiter's sign and enters mutual reception, true mutual reception, not the layered effect from earlier. No. Venus, for the first time, is in mutual reception with Jupiter since Jupiter entered Taurus. Jupiter entered Taurus in May. Venus is now in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter's now in Venus's sign. And on the 30th, the very next day, so I'm just going to bump this just to show you. On the 30th, Jupiter turns direct, 9:15 p.m., here's Jupiter direct. There's no retrograde sign. Jupiter turns direct. Venus is in Jupiter's sign. It feels like this is the way that I'm feeling this. And the last two things that we're going to talk about is Jupiter retrograde. And it feels like once Venus gets through Scorpio, it's almost like Venus and Libra rebalance, refocus, renewed Venus, reset between the Venus South Node conjunction and the Venus Pluto square that happens end of November going into December. But at the end of December, Venus going into Jupiter's sign after going through Scorpio, that feels almost like a baptism. We need to get below the surface, get deep into our emotions, get deep into the wounds, find this area where we need to heal, find this area that we need to get focused, find this area where we need to overcome things from the past. And then we get to the end of the month, Venus goes into Jupiter's sign. And it's like at that moment, we can start taking corrective actions. Some people, the corrective action right here is going to be how you're going to pay that credit card bill and not stick that shit on me. Everything, once Venus goes into Sagittarius, really shapes the game and it really changes things. There is going to be turmoil that's going to happen right around the holiday, more so those few days right afterwards. There's going to be frustration. There's going to be turmoil. Again, I do not like that timeline for people that are trying to travel because I just don't like that kind of travel. I really don't. I don't like that timeline for people that have issues with vices. There can be a lot of things tied to vices. But when Venus goes into Jupiter, I think our awareness of something is so profound and goes into Sag in Jupiter's sign and starts mutual reception with Jupiter. I said that wrong. Once Venus goes into Sagittarius, and that instigates immediately afterwards Jupiter in Venus's sign turning direct, Venus starts corrective action. Venus starts pushing some things forward. Venus is going to have some things put into motion. And remember, Jupiter will be at that 5-degree mark for a month. It starts December 15th. It does not end until January 15th. Venus goes into Sagittarius, and immediately afterwards, Jupiter turns direct. Venus is the corrective action. And it is a big portion of what pushes us into the new solidified dynamic of transitions that are going to start to take place in January. There is a huge benefit to Venus and Sagittarius, and Venus likes Sagittarius. She does. She loves being in Jupiter's sign. She's really comfortable there. There's a lot of passion. There can be a lot of hope and a lot of direction. January is a whole new ballgame. It's one thing to say, new year, new me. Yeah. We couldn't say that January of 2023 was not new year, new me vibes. No, it was a nightmare because of that Mercury retrograde. There was so much crap going on. Really, if you want to do new year, new me stuff in 2023, you didn't even start until March. Like that was the right time to start. But even then we weren't starting with all the right things. We weren't ready. We were shaken up from stuff that was going on before and we weren't ready. January 2024, we're ready for things. And new things will come to light and new things will commence. And there will be a whole new dynamic in the energy in January. December is about transitions. We are transitioning into uncharted territory. We are in uncharted territory because Mars, our ambition, our drive, the god of war, the thing that moves us forward to take certain actions, he's a little snowblind. But by the time we get to January, the distance between the sun and Mars will have grown so far that he won't be snowblind anymore. Oh no, he'll have his vision restored. And then by the time we really get to that point, Mars will be in Capricorn, where he is exalted, where he is a badass, where he can do anything he wants and accomplish anything. a newly reborn Mars that can accomplish anything, we have a huge trajectory that will start to unfold in January. But we don't know that trajectory until we get through the transitions that are December. December is a month of transitions, forward and backwards, good times and bad times, beginnings and endings. It is an entire month of transitions, and we are going into uncharted territory, but we are going to have a much better idea of how to maneuver in this territory. We will have drawn a little bitty map. That's where the hole is. You don't want to step wrong over there. You don't want to get caught at night over there. Like, you're going to know your surroundings and the situation far better after we have a few bumps. Just a few bumps. Making that sound really light. But there's been some bumps in the road. We're going to hit some potholes. We're going to call it December. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for subscribing. For those that have ordered readings from me, I have been doing the readings and sending them out, but I will admit, like, Thanksgiving kind of like took over more of my time than I initially expected it to. So I have readings still going out. This was going to go out on December 1st, so there'll be readings that go out in the meantime. But your readings are on their way. Most of my turnaround time is about 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm getting more in that 3-week category because I have been booking so much. You will be getting your readings soon for those that have already booked with me, but they're on their way. I'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.